Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark of the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1957 courtroom drama, Witness for the Prosecution.
Just roll up your mouth. You talk too much. If I'd have known how much you talked, I'd never have come out of my coma.
Well, I hope that's not true, but I'll try to keep this brief just in case. I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rate on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the 1920 side of the movie era, and now I'm at 1957 with Witness for the Prosecution. This movie stars Tyrone Powers as Leonard Vole, Marlene Dietrich as Christine, Charles Laughton as Sir Wilfred Roberts. He also directed one of my favorite movies of all time called The Night of the Hunter, which I recommend everyone go see. It stars Elsa Lanchester as Miss Premsel, who I fondly remember from an episode of I Love Lucy when I was a child.
New York, yeah. Heading south. South. All three of us. Me, this redhead, and this blonde.
And Norma Varden as Miss Emily Jane French. This movie was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, Best Actor in a Leading Role for Charles Laughton, Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Ella Lanchester, Best Director for Billy Wilder, Best Sound Recording, and Best Film Editing. So when this movie opens up, we are introduced to Sir Wilfred Roberts. He has just come home from the hospital where he suffered a major heart attack. Now, he is a trial lawyer, but I believe in this movie they are called a barrister. And he is told by his doctors that he is no longer able to try really hard cases, that he needs to stick to easy stuff that won't get his blood boiling and, won't get him too excited. He's sent home with the nurse, Miss Premsel, who is dead set on making sure that he follows these rules. Now, they have a really funny back and forth banter with each other where he is extremely sarcastic, and not only does he not want to follow these rules, but he's always finding ways to go behind her back and do stuff like smoking and, doing things that he shouldn't be doing after a guy's had a heart attack. Shortly after he comes home from the hospital, he is given a case, or at least he is asked to take a case for a gentleman known as Leonard Vole.
Good afternoon, Carter. Would it be possible to see Sir Wilfred? I'm sorry I didn't ring out for an appointment, but this is urgent.
If it's about a brief, Mr. Mayhew, I'm sorry, but we're full up. Sir Wilfred has all that he can handle.
I'm sure he'll want this brief. Serious criminal matter.
Absolutely not, Mr. Mayhew. Sir Wilfred is still convalescent. He can't possibly accept anything of an overstimulating nature.
Put me on a diet of bland civil suits. Hello, Mayhew.
Now, Leonard Vole is a guy who has been out of work for a long time. He's kind of someone who is an inventor, where he tries to invent these different gadgets that no one wants to buy. He can't really keep a job because he doesn't really like what he's doing. But his story begins where he meets this older woman at a hat store. He suggests what kind of hat she should buy. They kind of have a laugh and then they part ways. Later on in his life, he sees this woman again in a movie theater, and they hit it off and they strike up this friendship.
Would you mind, madam, your hat?
Oh, it's you.
No! It's your fault, You chose it yourself. May I?
Sure, if you like.
Thank you. Such a bother taking it off and putting it back on again.
That chap on the white horse is called Jesse James. Those others have led him into this ambush. It's not at all cricket.
Don't worry, Mr. James shoots his way out.
He does.
I've seen it before. I go to the movies quite a lot.
Now, he says that this friendship was purely platonic, like she saw him as like a son, and that he just hung out with her because he was afraid that she was lonely and she had no one to hang out with, and he was just, worried about her well-being. Now, the reason why they're all in this room is because she was murdered, and he is going to be the main suspect in the murder.
Sir, there has been a murder, and you are a suspect.
Because he has a pretty flimsy alibi, he said he was with his wife during the murder and that she can vouch for him, and all you have to do is talk to her and, we can settle this right away. He has no motive for killing her, so, he's not really worried that he's going to get arrested, but he thinks that everyone else worrying is just they're blowing it out of proportion. But then we soon realize he was left a large amount of money.
Oh. Congratulations.
80,000 pounds. And I was worried about a couple of hundred for that silly egg beater of mine, and now I must call Christine. Oh. Well, this inheritance doesn't make things look any better for me, though, does it?
No, I wouldn't think so.
And now it becomes that he has this motive and he has a reason for killing her. The police come and they arrest him. Now, Sir Wilfred Roberts at first says he's not going to try the case, that he's just going to kind of be on the sidelines. He has a different lawyer that Leonard can use. While they're in his office, Sir Wilfred starts talking to this other lawyer, and he says, we have to talk to the wife, break it to her gently that her husband was arrested. Women can be kind of emotional about these things. Well, then she walks into the door of the lawyer's office, and she says, she has an accent, she's foreign, and she says, I don't need your pity. I knew he was going to be arrested. I told him so. They start interrogating her, and they say, we just want to verify some facts. Miss Emily Jane French, the woman who was killed, thought of your husband as kind of a son, and, it was a platonic relationship. There was nothing going on. He didn't know that she was rich, and he didn't know that there was an inheritance. And Christine, who's the wife, she kind of like, oh, is that what he told you? Yeah, sure, I'll go along with this.
Now, Mrs. Vole, you know that Mrs. French left your husband money.
Yes, a lot of money.
Of course, your husband had no previous knowledge of this bequest.
Is that what he told you?
Well, surely, Mrs. Vole, you're not suggesting anything different.
Oh, no. I do not suggest anything.
And quite obviously, Mrs. French had come to look upon your husband as a son, or perhaps a favorite nephew.
You think Mrs. French looked upon Leonard as a son? Or a nephew?
I do, an entirely natural and understandable relationship.
And she's, it's very hard to figure her out. Whose side is she on? Is she telling the truth? Is she just telling the truth because that's what they want to hear? Is there something else going on here? And then she drops this bomb that she's not actually married to Leonard Vole, that when they met in a different country. She was in the army. She wanted to get out of the country she was in, and she was already married to someone else, but she said that she wasn't, so that he could take her out of the country and he could free her.
My husband. Leonard and I went through a form of marriage in Hamburg, but I had a husband living at the time somewhere in East Germany in the Russian zone.
Did you tell Leonard?
I did not. It would have been stupid to tell him. He would not have married me, and I would have been left behind.
So, in fact, even though they went through this process of getting married, she legally is not married to him because she was married to someone else. This sets off all kinds of, fireworks in Sir Wilfred Roberts' head. And he says, you know what, I'm just going to try this case. This seems really peculiar. This seems really crazy. And I think that I'm the only one who can handle this. Later on, Sir Wilfred Roberts is talking to Leonard Vole, and Leonard Vole insists that his wife needs to take the stand because that's his alibi. Like, she knows where he was. Sir Wilfred Roberts kind of keeps it to himself at first, but he says, we're not going to put her on the stand. She's a foreigner. They would eat her alive up there. But deep down inside, he really believes that it's probably not a good idea because he's not sure really what side she's on here. I don't think he truly trusts the fact that she's going to give the evidence that he wants.
Not up.
I hear it may be Mr. Myers for the Crown. We can't take chances with him.
Quite. Well, we better be going. Miss Trimsel is waiting in the car with her pills and a thermos of lukewarm cocoa.
Officer?
But Christine must give evidence.
Mr. Vole, you must learn to trust me.
So this all leads up to the end of the movie. Well, the ending scenes of the movie, which is in the court. Now, in the court, the prosecution is going to bring on some witnesses. They're going to bring on the maid of Emily Jane French, who says that she heard the murder going on and that it was definitely Leonard Vole who did it. They're going to bring on some forensic witnesses who have forensic evidence that he was there at the time and that he committed this murder. But of course, he has a really great lawyer who is going to be able to kind of refute all this evidence. And this ultimately leads to the climax of the movie, which honestly is the greatest ending of a movie I've ever seen, I think, in my entire life. I'm not going to ruin it. It's a bit complicated at the end, I would say. Not complicated, but it's definitely, it needs to be watched. It's not something that I want to give away. Now, I'm perfectly happy with giving away endings normally in these reviews, but for this one you need to watch. It is the greatest ending in a movie I've ever seen in my life. I pride myself on someone who can guess what an ending is going to be, but even when I guessed this ending and ended up being right, it ultimately wasn't. So it totally blew me away. Just absolutely fantastic. So that's the end of the review portion of this review. So what I thought of this movie is a perfect 10 out of 10. It is hilarious. The banter between Sir Wilfred Roberts and his nurse Miss Primsel is absolutely hilarious. The first hour of the movie, I would say I was laughing hysterically at a lot of what was going on. The story building is fantastic. Tyrone Powers does an absolutely fantastic job here with being this guy that you really sympathize with, that you're really rooting for, that you think he was actually framed for this and it didn't happen and he's going to go to jail for the rest of his life. And when he's in court, it seems like there's just no hope for him at all, that this is just going to be a guy who is devastated and who is going to just be unjustly in prison forever. And he really starts out as a person who is quite confident in himself and his alibi and who he is, and he really doesn't believe that he's in any danger. And then by the end of the movie, he just erupts into this emotional, I don't want to die, I don't want to go to jail. His acting ability to turn on a dime like this is absolutely fantastic. Besides that, Charles Laughton is also amazing. He is so funny in this movie. And then when it gets to the court proceedings, it's also where he goes from funny to serious. I feel like there's a huge turn in this movie from the beginning where, everything is simple and everything is easy, everything's coming together fine. You can laugh at certain points, you can have fun at certain points, there's jokes that are thrown around, and then at the end of the movie, it really draws you in and it really tells you okay, we're going to completely change the dynamic here, and you just feel dread throughout the entire last half of the movie. It's like an emotional roller coaster, this movie is. And like I said, all the actors are fantastic. Marlene Dietrich, who played Christine, I don't know why she wasn't nominated for Best Supporting Actress. I'm not sure. I haven't gone back to see who was nominated or who won that year, but she does an absolutely fantastic job as Christine. I feel like every character in this movie has an arc at the end where they start off as someone who definitely plays a certain role. She definitely is not the same person. You don't have the same feeling about her at the end of the movie that you have at the beginning of the movie. And wow, the end of this movie is just such an emotional roller coaster. And it's the last 10-15 minutes. It's not even like they stretch this ending out, this amazing ending out for an hour. It's fantastic. The way they story build in this movie and then they just dump it all in your lap at the end is just spectacular. This is honestly one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. I had never heard of it until I watched it for this, and coincidentally enough, it comes right after 12 Angry Men, which was another courtroom movie. And I honestly don't know which one I like better, because 12 Angry Men, I liked it for different reasons. But this one, I was so just engrossed in this movie. I was so into this movie that I couldn't put it down. I've watched it 3 times. Since I did 12 Angry Men. It's been a month since I've done a review. I've watched this movie 3 times, and I absolutely think it's fantastic. I can't say anything more about it besides the fact that it's a 10 and you need to go see it. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.